And this session is being audio recorded, just like every P and Z Commission meeting. Please be advised that today we are also recording the video as well. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will keep video of themselves on throughout the meeting. During public hearings, all normal rules, including stating and spelling your name, will apply. Please use the chat feature or raise your hand to speak, and you will be recognized. So roll call. We have Daryl. We have Karen. We have Alice. We have David. Myself. And Matt's not come on, right? Karen?
I'm
Don?
here now, Wes.
Oh, Matt. Okay, and Matt. So let's elevate Matt to voting status. And let's carry on with the reading of an approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes of August 11th. Does anyone have anything on that?
I would move to accept those minutes as written.
I'll second the motion on the minutes.
All right. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Okay, so we accepted the regular minutes and the special meeting minutes of August 18th. Planning and Zoning Commission and Inland Wetlands Commission hiring subcommittee. Were there anything on that? As you can see, we have a nice result from that with Ty sitting in the background. So
I'd like to welcome Ty.
Yeah.
Here,
Happy to
here.
be here.
And I would move to accept those minutes as written as well, Wes.
you're a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay. So-
Wes,
Yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are two ads that we need to put onto the agenda.
okay,
They're on the special meeting folder, the public one.
okay,
So it would be adding 6B5 and 6B6 to the agenda.
I didn't see 6B6 was a new addition, Donna. What's that addition for?
Do we have the ads?
Oh, 6B6 is the rewrite of the job description.
Okay, 6B, what's 6B5?
6B5 is the appointment of the ZEO.
Oh, 6B5 is the appointment of the ZEO, and
Mhm.
6B6 is the rewrite of the zoning, the job description.
we have a
I would
motion.
move to add 6B5 and 6B6 to the agenda.
Terrific. Second. I'll second it. All in favor of that? Okay, so we'll hear that at the end of the meeting. All right, public communications. Does anyone have anything that we should communicate from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to old business. 5B1, clarification of baseline of operations and aspirations of Club Getaway. So we saw this this regulation outline that that Donna put in our folders. As I had mentioned last time, I think it is important that we have a directional vote, I suppose, on whether we should let this be or whether we should write a regulation. Looking at this regulation, it's not going to be, it's going to take a lot of time to put this together. This is not something we've got to study acreage, we've got to study potential development of other lots. This is not going to be an easy thing to put together. So we don't have all the commissioners here this evening, and I would really like to hear from all the commissioners on this. So I'm going to suggest that we put this on the next month's agenda, and would like to hear whether we should go forward with this or not. This has been on the agenda now for well over a half a year, probably longer. But I think it is truly important that if we do go forward with the regulation, that we've got to put our best effort forward, and it's going to take some work.
Wes, do you want any discussion now or just wait?
Well, I would put forward a motion to table this until the next hearing. When we have more commissioners on board, when we have all 7 commissioners to.
I would second that. I think it deserves a full conversation. So let's put it to next month.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, so we'll hear that again next month. So proposed changes to regulations to electric vehicles. This is important. So Donna, you want to start this off, maybe with some changes that were made from the last draft?
Yeah, the new ones should be in the public meeting folder. And Glenn had made the changes that were discussed at the last meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to Glenn so that he can explain exactly what he did and how he rearranged things.
Terrific.
Glenn, is that okay?
Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Based on the comments I received for regard to the prior draft, I made some revisions to the electric vehicle charging regulation. On the bottom of the first page, I had the wrong acronym in place, so I changed the acronym to EVCS, which is electric vehicle charging stations. There are sidebar annotations which are still in the regulation if the commission has questions on these particular elements. I think the key part of the regulation here overall is to enable and also require electric vehicle charging stations in Kent in the future. The definitions help set the stage for this. The regulations indicate that electric vehicle charging stations are going to be permitted if people choose to install them. And then if a new development comes in, electric vehicle charging stations would be required of different types, either EV installed, EV ready, or EV capable. I think the language that's here on page 3 points to the issue here that it's not required to adhere to side or rear yard setbacks and shall be required to comply with the minimum front yard setback requirement unless authorized by the commission through granting of a special permit. So there could be situations, thinking along Route 7 or wherever, where parking spaces may actually be within the front yard setback in some situations that are commercial, and this would allow somebody to request and the commission to approve that. There may be also situations at institutional uses, churches or other places like that, that there may be an interest or desire in installing a EV charger. So the general approach here is to essentially encourage them to meet the setback, but if there are reasons why that's either not desirable or appropriate, the commission can go ahead and make that modification. So the other issue in the regulation relates to the concept of what level of signage might be considered appropriate. And I think, as you can see from some of the visual examples here on the page, we can have sort of interesting structures like the Tesla station with essentially just their logo on it. And we have another one to the left of that, which shows a small TV screen, which could be instructions on how to use or information on any payment requirements, etc. And then the two elements at the bottom are essentially full-size screens, which run advertising promotions or other things like that. So the regulations have been crafted here to essentially say that unless otherwise approved by the commission. So somebody can come in and request the ability to do something new or different, and the commission can consider that. But it basically allows 1 square foot, 144 square inches in cumulative area per charging station. Only static images on the screen, so it can't be motion, which could be distracting for cars or other things like that. Any electronic displays use reduced lighting intensity from dusk to dawn. The level of illumination you would require on a sunny day is quite bright, but at nighttime that could be blinding. And then do not emit audible sound. So those were the provisions suggested here for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the regulation or these sections. How can I help you this evening?
In section 9, what is the approval mechanism implied there? Is that a permit, a special permit, or some other?
Yeah.
Specific to item 9, I guess.
Well, item 9 are provisions that relate back to the level of approval. So if it's accessory to a residential dwelling, it's allowed, but it's subject to the provisions which apply over here. Then get to a zoning permit, or we get to a special permit in these types of situations. If a use is approved by site plan approval, then that would be the mechanism for approval. And then if somebody's seeking an exception, that would kick that element of that application into a special permit scenario. So on item 9 here, if somebody comes in with 1 square foot of display area using only static images and reduced lighting intensity and does not emit audible sound, the commission would approve that as part of the site plan application. Somebody requested permission to do any of these things, emit audible sound, or for a blindness exemption or whatever, that now kicks it into the special permit category. And I guess I should say that there, shouldn't I, David?
Yeah.
It's otherwise approved by the commission by special permit.
Yeah. So Glenn, when you say that when accessory to non-residential use, a zoning permit means that it's staff generated or it's commission generated?
Zoning permit, I was anticipating this would be staff generated. Somebody has a parking lot, they're not building it. They're going to go ahead and install the infrastructure there on the site for electric vehicle chargers.
Yep.
Either as a private benefit or community benefit or whatever. So
Okay.
I didn't think we wanted to
Right.
make that process too arduous.
So when it's a principal use, it'd be more like a filling station, right?
Or it could be a situation that, that Tesla, I'm not quite sure how they configure there, whether it's a dedicated Tesla lot. But if the only use of the parcel is for an EV charging station, and not even a convenience store or anything else like that, that's now a principal use. It's a little unique and different. And so this is set up to say, okay, well, come and tell us what, why, and how as how it works together. If gas stations today with convenience stores, are they going to exist in 40 years? I don't know. Perhaps not. But it might be a convenience store with EV chargers, which is a slightly different configuration. So that wouldn't necessarily make it a special permit, or maybe that would be the principal use and the convenience store's accessory. We'll have to figure this out as this evolves over time.
Well, I think it's pretty thorough. The only one I'm not so sure about is number two, making it a required installation from, I'm assuming, the developer.
I understand. So this is one of the things I struggled with, Wes, and I looked around in terms of sort of what other municipalities are doing. And some municipalities are starting to require EV chargers. Yes, it's a little additional expense, but it's going to pay dividends down the road. And the key element of this is getting the conduit into the ground to support the charging stations later, which is why the regulation was sort of set up to say, okay, well, look, you don't necessarily have to install everything right now in terms of an installed space, but if you don't do installed spaces, then you have to provide 2 EV ready stations or 1 EV capable level 3 charging station in the future. Get the conduit, the wiring, the circuitry into the ground today and set the stage for the future. Because later on, if you have to go back and rip up the parking lot to put the conduits and stuff in, we're sort of behind the 8 ball. And I struggled a little bit too here in terms of a recommendation to you guys. I set out the 10% requirement. And that is, again, a little aggressive today, but the most important thing is getting the wiring and conduit into the ground. Current data available from the state indicates that about 2% of all vehicles in Connecticut are EV. So that's 1 out of every, 50 cars is an electric vehicle. But 7% of new vehicle sales are electric vehicles. And so we're starting to get up to the point where we're going to have to make a pretty rapid transition in the future on this. And so I think the idea here is to have some flexibility. So I think I set it up this way for conversation. The reason that permitted and required are underlined and highlighted is just for this discussion. And I think these are sort of policy decisions for the commission to consider.
Well, I think it makes good sense to require that the infrastructure be in place, the underground wiring, et cetera. Would that be something that you would include in the, if we would ask that, not that the charging station actually be installed, but that it's ready to be installed?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the wording of this section here in the paragraph. Right now, it reads, the commission may authorize a 1-station reduction in the number of EV charging stations to be installed and operational in exchange for the applicant installing all of the infrastructure to create. So somebody may come to you and say, listen,
I see, right, yeah.
But I think I'm not wild as I read it here today, Wes, about this 1-station reduction. That simply implies that you only get a reduction of 1 space. I didn't mean it that way. What I meant is that for every station you get reduced, you've got to do either all of the infrastructure for an EV capable level 3 in the future. And those are the chargers you really want. Those are the ones that you can charge your car in 20 minutes from 0 to full, supposedly. And then the other option is an EV ready charging station, which is, the customers got to bring their own cord on that particular one. So I might want to revise this paragraph here, because I didn't mean it to imply you only get to take out one of these requirements. The idea would be that you could defer all of them. But if you have a 100-car parking lot, your requirement would be for 10 spaces installed and operational. And if you say, well, I don't want to do that today, I think the commission could say, then put in all the conduit and wiring for 20 spaces, and somebody will revisit this in the future when it makes more economic sense.
That's a little bit more palatable.
So I think the wording on this, I think it's this sentence here. So I think the regulations are best crafted, Wes, when the regulation says this is required, but we may relieve this requirement under the following circumstances. If you start off with the regulation and say, we may impose this on you at some point in the process, it's very hard for people to kind of plan with that. So start with the concept that it's going to be required, but there is this reduction, this flexibility here in reduction. So I'll reword that sentence.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit concerned with item number 6 under provisions, the A2, A3 provisions on the
Yep.
page 3 or 4 of the PDF, and I'm always a little bit reluctant to add subjectivity to the to the equation, and that's sort of what we're recommending here, is that rather than allowing the charging stations in the front yard setback, rather than just allowing it by right, just like we're allowing it in the side yard or the rear yard setback, we're, maybe burdening the commission with by having to go through the process of a special permit. And why wouldn't we simply allow charging stations within the setbacks?
Hard to answer that, Matt. I'm not quite sure how these are going to evolve and be deployed. I think that the scenarios here, if we look at some of these pictures, what is the backside of, I'm looking at on the bottom, I guess it's page 3, bottom left picture. What does the backside look like if it faces a public street? Or if we go to the next page, well, let's forget the bottom 2 pictures, which are the very large screens. But if those were adjacent to a public street, is that okay or sort of not okay? The parking space could be right up next to the sidewalk type of thing. So I wanted the
Glenn?
commission to have a little more control over that.
Hey, Glenn, I had crafted a suggested language about tying it to where a normal parking sign would go, specific to allowing the setback to be ignored if it's for an existing parking lot or a parking space, and restricting the size and location only for an existing parking, hard surface parking lot. Was that language not something you could build off of?
Perhaps it could be, David. I mean, I think what I was trying to do with this language here was to have a scenario where somebody, the types of situations that could occur here could be diverse. Basically have somebody explain to the commission what they're doing and why. And it just, look, all my parking spaces are in the front yard. If I can't do this, I can't do any. And the commission might say, well, these are fine, or is that the least obtrusive location? So I felt that a dialogue, I'm very sensitive to what Matt said too, in terms of, if everything seems to be a special permit, everybody's got to come to the commission. Your
Yeah.
agendas could become lengthy sort of in the future.
Well, I'm not opposed to the idea of continuing the special permit, but I tried to put language in where if it was an existing parking space and it would be where the signage would normally go, and it was a small non-advertising based charger, that they wouldn't need a special permit. It could just be a zoning permit. You could still have the special permit for something exotic, but at least any existing parking situation could be retrofitted with a EV charger without needing to come before the commission. That was the goal there, was to avoid the subjectivity thing Matt is referring to. Because you're not going to put a charger anywhere, you're going to put it at the head of a parking spot. So why don't you just treat it as you would any other as of right signage, like a handicap sign or something else, if it's the same size, space, or at least very close.
Yep. I think the challenge also could be putting the zoning enforcement official in the point of making some of these determinations. But I think I can work on this language here, see what I can come up with. I think build off what you were saying, David, the spaces are there today. It's where a sign would typically go. And so we're really looking at the physical configuration of the site. And if our goal is to get EV chargers in, and that's sort of the only place that they can go, then yeah, that's kind of what it's going to have to be. So I didn't have any problem with side or rear yard setbacks. I felt that these wouldn't necessarily be impactful on sort of neighboring property and commercial zones, et cetera. They would be abutting commercial property, so it wouldn't generally be a huge issue. What I was more concerned about was sort of the streetscape in Route 7 in the village, et cetera. So.
Well, I think that's what that's the other part of the comment that I'll make, which is the permission within the town right of way, town or state right of way. And I understand your comments, Glenn, that we really shouldn't be zoning within the state and town right of ways. But the idea is, I think, that we would prefer not to have, driving up Main Street and just looking at the backside of a whole row of charging stations that sort of detract from the view and the character of the town. So if we could work that somehow into the ideal of the regulation, that would be something that I would be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can unmark this for deletion, right? So I can put that text back. I think if the state licenses charging facilities in the state right away, I don't think we can stop that, Matt. And is the town subject to zoning, Donna?
No, it's not. It's exempt from zoning.
So
But
go ahead, Donna, sorry.
But it's only on town-owned property. Is a right-of-way town-owned? I think that becomes kind of the conversation.
Yeah, I would say Kent Green Boulevard is a town road, right?
Mm,
road or driveway?
No, Kent Green Boulevard is privately owned
It is.
Okay.
as part of the Kent Green.
Right.
So the only property that's owned by the town within the town green is the property that is that houses the Kent Town Hall.
Yep.
Everything else is privately owned.
So Matt, I think I'm happy to leave that language in. Over the course of time, it may or may not have any sort of impact, but at least there'll be a position statement on the part of the commission.
And maybe that's where that's where that language that David was talking about earlier and the special permit application for front yard setbacks comes into play, where if somebody were to develop the Golden Falcon lot, right, and they wanted to put their parking lot up front and in front of the building, and they wanted a whole row of charging stations, then in the front yard setback, then the commission could say that doesn't fit. So maybe that sort of works, because it wouldn't be within the right of way anyway. It would be
On private
the
property.
Private
Yep.
property. Okay.
So Glenn, in the central business area, any improvements require architectural review. So this would be exempt from architectural review by the sense that it goes to staff and not the.
That's a good question, Wes.
So that's interesting. Let's sort of role play here for a second. IGA wants to put in EV chargers. Parking spaces are there. There are some islands that the charging and things could go in. Does the commission feel that should come to you for approval, or just go see Ty or Donna and pull a zoning permit to, put the conduit in the ground and the charging stations above?
Well, I'm trying to imagine a situation that, we've set up the architectural review board to write herd on development in our downtown area for a quaint New England town. So if people thought that that EV just as a special event could happen outside of any regulation, I don't know. I don't know that that's a great thing, at least in the area regulated by the Architectural Review Commission. Yeah, I think people might say, well, why was this not reviewed?
And I think, as you can see from some of the pictures, there's quite a bit of diversity in the shape, size, and configuration of these. And I think very few of these are sort of New England Village character.
Right.
So
Exactly.
we may have a built-in conflict between what the world is doing technologically and what Kent might be prepared to permit. So I don't know if they come with different housings or sort of how that works. But I certainly very respectful of what Architectural Review does in Kent. So
mean,
Think
the
about, isn't New Milford have a cute little roof built over their charger on their green? Seems like they made an effort to have it blend in. It doesn't seem impossible that somebody wants to put them in that area where the ARB couldn't say, hey, make it look quaint.
Yeah. Well, I think unfortunately what it means is that it's going to have to go to the commission. If it goes to architectural review, it's got to go to the commission.
Wes, this is Alice. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Why would IGA want to have chargers in their parking area? The charger, then how did they know that's a customer to the store? I'm a little confused about why this charging would a commercial. Anyway, that's my question. I'm not, seems like all of these chargers would be some sort of municipal or public spare area, not in a commercial parking lot. I mean, if I was going shopping there and I couldn't find a space because people are charging their cars, that doesn't make sense.
Well, I think, IGA is not making any new changes. There's no new parking. So none of this would apply to them. They're not required. to
Oh, well,
put-
I thought somebody just brought that up, that they would.
Well, if
That's
it's
what
a new development, if it's being developed new, say somebody was building the barn shops brand new.
Oh, brand new. Oh, okay.
Brand
All
new.
right.
well, let's hang on a sec here. I want to make sure I understand what the commission's saying here. So under this proposed section 8283, subsection 1 says that the stations are permitted as follows, and what it would say for IGA, it's accessory to a non-residential use or another a bank building in the village area or something else like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
They can go ahead and put that in by zoning permit. I think what Wes is suggesting here, that if it's in with the Kent Village District, then at that point in time, architectural review and everything else. So we probably want to, maybe we want to modify this from zoning permit. The second section here does relate to somebody's coming in with a new application. And that would be a scenario where the commission would have a requirement. Here, this is proposed essentially for the parking section of the regulations to say, hey, don't get too far ahead of yourselves here. At least 10% of the spaces need to be EV appropriate or EV charging station compatible. So there's two different ways that we deal with it. We're not requiring people to retrofit. We're saying when you retrofit, these are the standards that are going to apply.
Mm.
So if our normal scenario, if somebody was going to put in new light poles in a parking lot, if the commission would normally require that you come to see the commission or some other type of, I think something like relocating the dumpster, the commission might require, might want to see that. So I'd like to fit into what Kent is doing rather than propose something different and
Yeah. Mhm.
It seems like the ARB review is only required in the Kent Village District. We would just have to carve that out to address Wes's concern. So I think your IGA example is perfect. If IGA wanted to offer an amenity and let people charge when they're parked there shopping, then that if a light post would go before the ARB, then yes, the charger would, but it would only apply within that section of town, not generically for any non-residential use.
yeah, so let's talk about Business Hamlet down at the Bowles Bridge area for a moment. Bowles Bridge is not subject to the design review provisions or standards. And if, one of the uses down there wanted to install some EV chargers for, competitive advantage reasons or whatever, Would we say, yes, you can do that through a zoning permit? Or would we say, hang on a second here, yeah, we want to come in and see what that's going to work like? Over here in the provision sections, what it does say is that you can't reduce the number of parking spaces or the dimension of any parking spaces, except the commission may by special permit allow the use of compact car spaces to create a configuration where you don't have to create new pavement and everything else. You can take some of your existing paved area to kind of put these areas in. Again, by special permit, I kind of apologize for that. But we deal with the concept in zoning that what's called the uniformity provision. You have to treat everybody the same. And if you don't, it's got to be essentially through a special permit process. So when you give somebody an exception, you can't just do it willy-nilly. You pretty much have to use the special permit process. And or do it by zoning permit, says everybody gets to do that.
I think in the, I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I'm in favor of the special permit process on this, and for all the reasons that have been mentioned, in the last 5 minutes. The diversity of our town and being one, when Glenn's talking about the different areas, and in particular to be cautious and take it slow, at least in the beginning, in the village center. And definitely I feel the Architectural Review Board should be involved. And that's just my 2 cents. I know at some point this is going to be so overwhelming in the future that maybe we won't need to take such a sort of tough stand or more involved permit process. But until we get to that point, I think it should be considered a special permit where the commission can review and counsel the person looking to install, the charging stations. Otherwise, I think it's going to go, it could go a bit crazy.
I unfortunately agree with that.
In the Kent Village District or everywhere?
I think there should be special permit everywhere except for maybe a residential home.
Right. But that's the one category, accessory to residential, right?
I think that's okay. I just think for a while we should be in charge of accompanying this change into our future.
At the sense of the commission, then I'm looking here at the top of page 2, section 8283, this category, this column here, the third column over. It says when accessory to a non-residential use, zoning permit down the line. I think what Karen's suggesting here is to make that special permit down the line. And that would deal with the architectural review component then as well. But I think the idea here would be to see how this unfolds over time, and then this could be simplified. I had originally set this up as zoning permit is to try to make it relatively simple for people to roll this out. But again, we're not quite sure what these areas are going to look like and how they're going to function, and maybe having a little more control at the beginning could be a good step. That's what the commission wants.
Well, and I think in the future, as things get going on this, maybe the future commissions and planning and zoning board will, they can change it. They can loosen it up if they feel like it. But I just think right now, that's how we should be handling it.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I understand that the Architecture Review Board governs what is done in the Kent Village District. But under their purview is an architectural aspect. So you're not going to be able to get someone who's going to be putting in a station to change the look of it to actually meet a New England style that's in line with the eaves and cornices. So to me, making them go to the ARB is kind of a step. I don't think it's necessary because as you can see, they're basically all the same design. They're not going to be able to change that. So I think making them go to the ARB is not necessary.
Yeah, I think to David's point, I mean, there may be things that can be done. This is more, we set up the ARB for a very critical thing. This is our town. And I kind of think that it needs to be that way.
Well, there are aesthetic, watchdogs. So I think, maybe there's not a lot they can do, but I for sure would like some of their input.
Okay.
I would definitely prefer a zoning permit for as many areas as possible, just to ease. I find it unlikely we're going to see a huge proliferation. And while, again, without the ARB can, I would say, force them necessarily, but one would hope that they'd be sensitive to trying to install these things in a way that ties into what their business needs. I don't think anyone's going to want a big ugly charger out in front of their store, regardless if they're the ones putting it in place. That's why the difference between the accessory use versus a principal use, I would just like to see the zoning permit to ease the ability to get more of these installed.
David, are
Is
you
there-
suggesting a zoning permit as opposed to a special permit? Is that what you're?
Well, I like the level it's at right now. If it's accessory, if it's an accessory to the business use that's there versus like the standalone Tesla chargers. Like if Tesla wanted to come in and put in a set of chargers, in the IGA parking lot, like they do in other places, and I would expect them to make an effort to have them blend in so they don't look quite so, super modern in the middle of our quaint town. But if something's going in as an accessory use in an existing business, then I'd like to see that process eased so that they can install a couple chargers for the use of their customers.
Alice, what do you think?
Well, I think that's a distinction without clarification. I mean, who's to say that the customer is, I don't know, benefiting or not benefiting? If there's a range here of thought, I think I kind of agree with Karen in the sense that the stricter we are at this point, the better. Listen, guys, we don't know. In 2 years, there could be a technological advancement on how you plug this thing in, and you could do it into your iPhone or something. And then we don't even have to have these stations. I'm exaggerating to make a point that in the early stages of this, I think we ought to be put as much control as we can. That's not to discourage EVs. Okay, we are all for that, I think. But when I look at these Tesla things and stuff, I'm like, I just choke. I don't want that in downtown Kent right now. That's just a personal feeling. So I would lean towards fairly strict command early on and see how it plays out, as Karen expressed it.
Daryl, how about you?
I guess I would look towards whether there's a possibility for a graduated oversight. If we really want to discourage chargers that are visible from Main Street, then I think it should be a little bit easier for them to be located, for instance, in the IGA parking lot. I don't necessarily think that the Architectural Review Board would need to review that. There's no context for them to use for their oversight. But if someone did put a charger on Main Street, the fewer that will hopefully go there, then perhaps there is a place for them to guide some kind of shrouding. So I think that there's different impacts, and certainly it should be encouraged to have the majority of the charging stations in large parking lots that are already existing.
Right. So Donna, on the ARB, the example of IGA was brought up. They're not really subject to ARB, are they? They're not visible from the main street.
Oh, no, they are subject to the,
okay.
yeah, because they're dead center in the middle of it.
Yeah,
I mean, when they came into, John came before them with a proposal to change the lamp posts, the existing lamp posts. He went to the ARB first.
okay.
Yeah.
So is the consensus that that we start off slow and make all of this a special permit except in a residential zone?
That's what I'd like to see.
I would vote for that.
Yeah, I would.
I land closer to where David was. That's somewhat of a graduated approval, the way it's laid out now. But I understand that position is in the minority. I like the idea of not having. So I've somewhat in this conversation, I've somewhat been swayed by the conversation and having a special permit for the front yard setback. I think that affords us some protections along Main Street and where generally you're visible from the public view.
Right.
But I also understand Karen and Alice's point. You know, Alice, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's definitely tongue in cheek with regard to charging from your iPhone, but you really never know what the technology is going to bring. It would certainly, I'd like to encourage charging stations, but I certainly wouldn't like to have, 100 of them in town that are obsolete.
Yeah, I'm not sure a special permit totally discourages the charging station. It's just
No, It
elevated.
doesn't.
No,
Okay. I could get
So
behind, having Glenn take another stab at this.
okay.
Yeah. But I was just about to suggest. So I think I've got some notes here. I think I understand what the commission's desires are. Ball's in my court to go ahead and make some changes to this language and get it back to Donna.
Terrific. So.
Can I just add just a point of clarity? The special permit for front yard setback it'd be nice if we could not have to do that in the rural zone based on the language, some form of language that would make it directly attached to an existing parking spot, so we don't end up with residential. I don't want residential applications showing up just because their parking lot in front of their house doesn't happen to meet the setback requirements.
No, I think, for example, Lane or Elizabeth Street is probably a good situation to think about. There's pretty confined quarters in terms of where parking areas might be and where electric chargers might go. And there wouldn't necessarily perhaps always be in a garage. There might be kind of a different type of configuration. So I'll put some thought into that one too, David.
Well,
Great.
let's not forget the reason why this is being kicked up now is because the Kent School wanted to put them
Right.
on, Shattuck Road in the rural
Right.
district within
Right.
the 40-foot setback. So, unless, because it's institutional, then, we'd have to maybe throw something in for that, because you're going to end up with like things like High Watch or Birch Hill. They're all in the rural district. So we might want to think about something that has to do. You've got Marvelwood. From what I understand, Marvelwood has already put them in. I don't know where they are, but from what I understand, there's a multitude of them up there. So I think that's something that we're going to need to take into consideration is the institutional use.
But Donna, the reason I picked the language up here on the top of page 2 residential dwelling accessory to a non-residential use. So I meant that to include institutional uses like the school. So they fall under this category. And I think the feedback we've gotten here tonight is the commission is interested in seeing that by special permit. So I think the language to Kent School would be, yes, they'll be permitted. It'll be a special permit. And the commission is going to have to grant you some special dispensation, if you will, for the front yard setback. So if they were to shield it or put some landscaping or some other things around that could, not be a big issue. And then the only other question, I'm not quite sure on these signage and electronic displays that they might be considering, which is why the language was to say unless otherwise approved by the commission. So if somebody comes in and says, well, listen, I'm using the Acme chargers and those are 188 square inches. Commission, I'm pretty sure would say, okay, as long as you mean the other stuff, that's fine. So I tried to anticipate that type of scenario. Let
Okay.
me take a shot at the text. I'll share it back and I'm happy to continue to work with the commission on this to get it done.
So could I throw something else out? Maybe there's a fourth column to your chart there that says anything in the downtown area is a special permit. So keep the category when accessory to a non-residential use, but then have another column that says, within the central business district.
Well, you might need even more columns then, because I think for, again, iWatch, Kent School, Marvelwood, those are non-residential uses in residential districts. And so do you want a special permit on those to see them, or you want to allow it by a zoning permit?
I think Donna's point was that that, because it is in a residential zone, would be a staff approved permit and not go to the commission. It's really only the downtown area that we've concerned ourselves with the
So you
air
could say that's when a principal use or in the central business district.
or something like that. Yeah.
But I would certainly like that language.
All right, let me take a shot, get this to the next level, and then we can bring it back to the commission and see if there's any additional refinements at that point.
Okay, so in any event, this is going to be a regulation change, so we'll have to go through the process.
Yeah, I think that's the process I'd suggest for your consideration is once the regulation, you feel comfortable proposing this or advocating for this, you would go ahead and schedule a public hearing on adoption
Right.
and then incorporate it into the regulations after the public hearing.
Okay,
So my job is to get the language squared away for you guys, and then the process can unfold.
okay, perfect.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, let's move on here. 5B3, Virginia Bush Sutman, 8 Bluff Road. Virginia, are you here?
Hi,
Hi.
I appreciate having the opportunity to explore a solution that will allow me to and have an ADU in my barn. As I said when I met you preliminary the last time, this is presently approved with a CO as an office, a studio and office. And as I am no longer using that office, I would like to make it into an accessory apartment. This is Gary's sketch. I don't know whether it's called a survey or not, because it doesn't have everything, but it locates the position here of the building that exists and has existed since 1989, which I want to convert. It has a full bathroom and is connected to the town sewer and water. It does not agree with current zoning regs because my own home is a two-family home. And the regs at 6200 say that accessory build units can only be added to one family homes. I don't need to tell you how much Kent needs accessory apartments, especially low-priced ones. There are some apartments being constructed here and there, but they're not particularly low. You may know that the current Kent housing plan recommends that an ADU and an external guest house can be added to a property, which would then make 3 units, which is what I'm trying to achieve here at my property. This would be okay if, with the regs, if it belonged to a town housing development or a housing development organization owned the property. Currently, my will give this to the Kent Affordable Housing if it still exists, or the town of Kent, but I'm not ready to die yet.
Good.
One recommendation has been that this be divided into 2 properties with a lot line adjustment. This is 0.58 acres, and this would make it approximately 2.25 properties. There are properties that with that 1/4 acre lot in town.
So that's the. See it now.
I would assume that if this were done, a more thorough survey would be needed and more consultation, at least with the land use officer, if not P&Z. But the property is a little odd. The rural zone part of it is from this point. This is what used to be Bluff Road, which is now not operating there. This part, from this point, about where it says RU zone, drops about 20 feet to the edge of the river. So it would be a somewhat odd property with a single studio apartment on a small bluff on Bluff Road. The zone, the 100-year flood zone comes to about the west side of the barn. The 500-year flood zone comes to the east side. However, as I say, it's 20 feet above the place where the river would flood. So if the river is 20 feet above its normal level, it might be a flood.
It's over the bridge at that point.
But I don't, what?
It's over the bridge at that point. The water level.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
okay. That is, that suggestion is one way to move forward on this. The other would be a text amendment. The current text at 6200 says that an ADU can be permitted only when accessory to a single family house. Oh, when sanitary arrangements are approved by the town sewer commission or the sanitarium, that the owner resides in the main building, and so on. And that, that there'd be 2 parking spaces. I would request as the alternative path that the phrase only when accessory to a single family dwelling be removed. I know that sometimes things are changed like that. When we started phase 1 of Stewart Farm, the zoning reg said that affordable housing could not be done in the rivershed area. And we discussed this a bit, and that phrase was removed from the regulation. First as an exception for the east side of Maple Street Extension, and then now it's been removed entirely. Probably because that property was a heck of a lot more than 200 feet above the river. But I think this change would not be a radical disruption of the town. The regulation was, I don't know whether it was put into the original ones in 67 or come since, but there are several reasons that I think it's not a good idea when the housing issues are so drastic in Connecticut and around the world at the moment. For one thing, the footprint of the existing buildings would not change. Nothing, and all of these have decent setbacks, legal setbacks. The house next door to me is 8 inches from my property line. I know that one reason that this regulation was invented whenever it came was that they didn't want to have too many people in small lots or too close to the property lines, crowding the property lines. Well, 8 inches, we cope with that right here, this house. Furthermore, on the other side of this property that I'm talking about over here is a set of condos with 20 units that could be as many as 40 people. Then on other properties on Elizabeth Street, number 21 has 4 or 6 units. It's not clear. Number 44 has 4 units. All of those are listed on Q Public as being constructed in the 1980s. I don't know the exact rules for number of units at that time, but it seems to be that putting a person in there and not changing any of the footprint is hardly going to be disruptive to the 20 units to the side or or the 4 to 6 in other places. Furthermore, right up this street is Morningstar in the R1 section, has 18 rooms plus staff. That's a lot of people on 0.91 acres. Mine would be 3, 4, 5, 6 people on half an acre. I'm sure that parking was also a consideration, but I can put car parking on either side of the barn. The property here on Bridge Street is 0.20 an acre, has 2 units, and they park in the right of way of Bridge Street. I don't know how they get away with that, but that's the way it is. I am sure that the restrictions on accessory dwellings might also be an attempt to lessen the traffic for the neighborhood. Well, the traffic on Bridge Street here is considerable. It is the only connection with the Kent School, Marblewood, West Kent, and New York State between Cornwall Bridge and Gaylordsville. Unless you happen to be smaller than a box truck, and then you can go across at Bulls Bridge. Another car for a person living in this studio apartment would hardly be noticed. So I think that the regulation of 6,200 for accessory departments ought to say 1 parking space for an accessory unit if it is a studio or a 1-bedroom. And you know that that was proposed as a state regulation, although it was not accepted here in Kent. It does have a lot to say for it in small properties. That's all I have to say. I know it's a big meeting and I want to be short, but I would like to know whether either one of these things seems plausible for me to pursue in further meetings with other applications.
Virginia, if I could suggest, because this is a preliminary, why don't you put in an application of what you want to do, and then we'll hear this again.
Okay. Well, I was hoping there might be some comments, if not a sense of the meeting, about these 2 alternative proposals.
Well, one of the things that Ty had recommended, you want to explain what you were thinking?
Yeah, so what I was thinking is in your regulations now, so you can have a primary dwelling and an accessory dwelling if, obviously if one is habitated by the actual owner of the property. So what you're asking for is a third. So maybe, because this would be allowed across the board throughout the town, but maybe if you would deed restricted the third as affordable housing, that would be a benefit to everybody. So if it was to be allowed that you happen to have a 2-family house and you also wanted to have an accessory dwelling unit, then that additional condition to deed restrict the third might be something that the commission would be willing to accept.
Could I deed restrict it without changing the property lines and making it a separate property?
That's what I was thinking, but I don't, what are you thinking?
I don't, splitting it into a separate lot, you're going to be creating 2 non-conforming lots at that
Right.
point in time.
I agree.
So if you leave it on the same lot and 6,202 gets changed to add the condition that, that third unit would need to be deed restricted, then you would not need to subdivide it.
Right. But you'd be
Mhm.
providing additional affordable housing deed restricted to the town, which obviously is a benefit. But then preventing investors from coming in and having like a 3-way rental property. So I don't know, it kind of seems like something that might be a fair
I have not
A fair
gone to
consideration.
legal sources for such deed restrictions of that kind, but I can do that.
I mean, I would check to see if that's something that's possible. And then maybe we could change that 6,200 too. So, you know, it would be then that the third unit, which would be the one that's in the old existing boathouse, would be deed restricted as always being affordable housing. And then if somebody else wanted to do that, then they would need to do the same thing.
They would
Because
need-
it would need to be deed restricted. So in other words, anytime you make a change to the zoning regulation, it's not going to just apply to you. It applies to the entire zone. You know, and that's the, I think the crux of the matter is that, you know, changing the zoning regulations for one person could possibly affect the entire town. But so we need to find a way to make it work for everybody. So, you know, it seems like it might be a win-win for affordable housing. It might be a win-win for you. It kind of curtails the amount of times that this can be done. I mean, but I think it's something that the commission is going to have to think about and kind of digest and see if legally, if it's even something that we can do.
Are you talking about doing this under the auspices of section 6400 in the zoning regs? Effectively adding a fourth option to what defines applicability?
Well,
Effectively, the existing regulation would allow that if deed restriction is added to that list.
well, now, are we talking about deed restriction for the barn studio unit, or for the whole property?
No, just that one unit would be deed restricted.
Okay,
But I was looking, and I think you were too, right?
Yeah, I was looking under 6,200, but I see what you're saying. 6,400 would be a good place for it as well, just allowing that additional
Yeah.
option.
I think it's a much better place in some ways in the housing plan. We did talk about that in our meetings. There was a general feeling that nobody would be interested in doing that. So there's a certain amount of humor in hearing that, like it has come up before we've even gotten to the housing plan. But I thought it would be an interesting way to encourage housing with deed restriction that would then apply to our, I think it would end up applying to 830G as well, which would be kind of nice.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah.
well,
And it would-
nobody, very few people but me would propose that deed restriction. But
Well,
even
it's-
though
it's
I'm
one more
not,
unit than we have
I
under
don't know
that
where
now.
we go
So
now.
Yeah, so I think it's worth, it's certainly worth looking at the accessory dwelling units and how they're permitted in our regulations, and that the housing plan that's we're going to talk about later, that's you know, that's mostly past that draft and almost a final version now. It is a final version pending approval, right? Recommends that we look at those
may I point out one thing, which is maybe relevant, maybe not, but amuses me a lot. There is a property in Washington, Connecticut that has a big old colonial house. And it is surrounded by 5 accessory dwelling units. And it has not destroyed the character of Washington, Connecticut at all. Now, it's probably grandfathered, but still, if somebody has a property where they'd like to put a garage and little building, I noticed that there are in Salisbury, a couple of applications have recently been approved to add accessory apartments. And I know there's another one being considered tonight. This is a very good path to ameliorating the housing situation in Connecticut. So if nobody else wants to speak, I will say that I will consult legal experts about the way to deed restrict that studio apartment, and get back to you with an application or suitable information at your next meeting.
Virginia, I would like to thank you for being such a champion and trying to find more housing for people. And I think the boathouse could be really darling for someone. I personally think that your idea of, and the rest of the commission might not agree with me at all, but I think personally your idea of a lot line change and creating 2 lots there, even though it does create more non-conforming, is probably the cleanest way to go. And then if you decided to deed restrict it, or if the town decided they wanted to deed restrict it, that would be a different subject. But I like the cleanliness of having the 2 lots and 2 separate dwellings. You have already the 2 family, and then you would have the boathouse as a single family. And
Wow.
I think that would be a cleaner way to go, but the commission may not agree with me because it does create additional non-conforming use. But you're already a very unique situation with this property. So,
You mean this would be non-conforming if it's separated? Would it be
Yeah.
non-conforming?
yes.
Why?
Well, Donna can explain that, but I think that's the whole principle of the 6200 regulation and our goal to not make things more complicated. But
But
looking at-
if it's 2 properties, then 1 2-family house, 1 1-family house,
yeah,
there's no non-conforming there.
well, I don't know. Donna can speak to that better than I. But I
Yeah, well,
think
Donna was the one who mentioned it.
I think your idea on that is a good one. And I think by doing that, that boathouse blends in better with the neighborhood and the whole area there. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
It is, by the way, built to the standards that Stewart Farm was built.
Yeah.
Insulation and everything else is just as good as affordable housing.
No, I think it's tremendous that you're trying to do this, and I would hope we could make it, less painful or, easy as possible. The only other question which you can come back and tell us about is, I don't know, I haven't driven down there. I don't know where all these parking spots are, but I suppose that could be figured out.
They're on either side of the garage, which sits in between, sits about here. And one of them is marked out with stones and the other one already has pea stone on it. So come by and take a look.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Virginia.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Good luck with the rest of the meeting. I'll be back with the Housing Board, Housing Steering Committee.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hey, Wes, I'm gonna have to drop for a little while to change venues. I just wanted to make sure we'll still have a quorum.
That's right.
I have to drop off the meeting for a little while to change venues. I'm not I'm not in my normal home. I just wanted to make sure we will still have a quorum if I drop off.
So how long will you be gone?
It depends on how long it takes me to walk.
Oh, no, no, we're fine until we get down to the end.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies.
So he
Oh, all right, let's move on here. 6A1, application 7522C. Daniel Robb. This is a public hearing. So let me read the notice into the record. Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via Zoom meeting on Thursday, September 8th, 2022, beginning at 7 o'clock to discuss and possibly act on application 75-22C and 76-22SP, Daniel Robb, 273 Kent Road, map 6, lot 12, lot 3. Construction of accessory structure located less than 100 feet from the property line. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the agenda that can be found on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. Any corresponding documentations will be filed in September 8th public meeting folder. The Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda and will be filed on the Town of Kent's website a minimum of 48 hours prior to the meeting. Signed, Wesley Wyatt, Chairman. Okay. Is the applicant here, or Donna, can you make a?
Hi, Wes, my name's Bart Clark. I'm
Oh, Bart, how
representing
you doing?
Rob.
Good.
How you been? Yeah, the Robs have a little less than 3-acre parcel, just about a 3/4 mile north of the Bulls Bridge, right on Route 7. And they're on the side that's opposite of the river, to the east of the river. And they have a small garage that they want to put up. And the only location that we could find that's feasible for it due to restrictions from wetlands, the existing mature trees and existing septic systems puts us 100 feet in front of 100 feet from less than 100 feet from the property line.
Yep.
And the and it's also in front of the existing dwelling. Don has the map that's shown here. And
It looks like the house itself is only 113 feet from the property line.
correct. And this one area that's nestled up in the front of the property line is the only buildable portions of the property. The other property is constrained by wetlands and steeper slopes. So
There's also an easement, it looks like.
there is a power line easement that goes to property in the back.
Yep, yep. So you're pretty well sandwiched in.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, this is a special permit because of that. The requirements are for screening and its appropriateness. We can see that there's not much alternative to it. And the setback right now is 77 feet, is that right?
Correct. Yep.
So there's 28 feet difference. And it can't pull back any further because of
There's several existing mature trees that are next to the house there.
yeah.
And the front yard of the property is already screened with a stockade fence outside of the driveway entrance. So the stockade fence is parallel to the Route 7.
And how high is the stockade fence?
It's 6 foot high.
Oh. Is it over 6 feet?
Didn't measure it, so I can't really represent that. So
Does it have landscaping behind it?
yes, the Robs have done a great job of landscaping this property. It's a very pretty property that's with all the mature trees and hosta plantings and other plantings around. So
Yeah, they got it. Mhm.
Donna, do you have anything to add to this?
Nope, I've been to the site. I was at the site because they did have to go obtain inland wetlands approval because as you can see, right in this area in here, is a, not a roaring stream, but definitely an, stronger than an intermittent stream.
Wow.
So wetlands was required, for that. And so I have been to the site and there is a huge tree here
Yeah.
There is a huge tree right around here, so there really isn't anywhere else. You've got your septic information is all over here.
Right.
As Bart has shown on the map, this is all screening along the backside of the stockade fence. So it's tucked in very nicely. And even if it were to be seen from the roadway, the design of the garage is going to be similar to the existing house. I mean, it's not an overly huge garage. It's not going to be overly tall. So I think it'll fit in really nicely there.
Right. And the difference is fairly de minimis. It's 28 feet without too many alternatives. And you say it's well landscaped in front, which is really our requirements for this. Does anybody else have any comment on this? So hearing none, do I hear a
We
motion?
need to close the public hearing first.
Oh, public
Wes.
hearing, yes, thank you very much.
Okay,
Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing? If there's no other comment from the public.
I move that we go ahead and close the public hearing, Wes.
Do we have a second?
I would
Second.
unless- Oh, Daryl can have it.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Okay, so public hearing is closed.
I mean, there are waivers.
Yep. So should we attend to those first?
Yes, please.
So I see that there's quite a few. There's 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I hear a motion to waive those sections.
I make that motion.
For your second,
Second, Wes.
okay. So any further discussion on the waivers? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, so the waivers are approved. And then to the application. Do I hear a motion?
Okay. I'd move to approve application number 75-22C and 76-22SP, Daniel Robb, 273 Kent Road, map 6, block 12, lot 3, construction of accessory structure located less than 100 feet from the front property line.
For a second?
Second.
All right. So any further discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried. All right, thank you, Bart.
Thank you.
All right. 6A2. This is also a public hearing. And I'll read the letter, the public notice into the record. Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via a Zoom meeting on Thursday, September 8th, 2022, beginning at 7:00 p.m. to discuss and possibly act on application 77-22C, 78-22SP, John Bergen for the Kent School, 74 Scotticoke Road, map 4, block 3, lot 5, construction of a 24 by 24 modular two-car garage. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the agenda, which can be found on the town's website.
You can't talk or anything.
I'm sorry? So any corresponding documentation will be found.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I am unable, I've been disabled by the host to be live video, so I can't vote with my hand. And I've tried to start it and so I haven't voted for anything.
Oh.
Joel. I just want you to know.
Try it,
According
try it now, Alice, because I did ask to start the video. There you go.
It says you cannot start. Oh, there I am. It keeps telling me I can't start it because you've disabled me.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right, sorry to interrupt you, Wes.
All right. Hi, Alice. How you doing? So continuing, at this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. Any corresponding documentations will be filed in the September 8th, 2022 public meeting folder, which can be found here. The Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda and will be filed on the town's of Kent's website a minimum of 48 hours prior to the official Zoom meeting. Signed, Wesley Wright, Chairman. Okay. Anyone from Kent School to?
Second, Tom Bergen, Facilities Director for Kent School.
How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you for taking the time. The Planning Zoning Board application tonight. As you can see on the site plan there, we're looking to construct a two-car modular garage next to our new storage facility at the facility location on Scotticoke Road.
So John, this is the site plan that I don't know how to say it.
Borland and Spath.
Yes, there it is. Bjorklund and Spath. They created when this storage garage was installed.
Correct. So we
So
want,
you're
we
going to
want to
be putting
west-
it in the back here where the temporary stockpile location is. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. Okay. I have another site plan with his drawing penciled in, but I thought that this one was better to read and to actually look at. So, so just imagine this 24, what is the size of it? 24 by 24, and it's going to be tucked in pretty close because you've got, these are dumpsters, are they not?
Correct. So
Okay,
it'll be parallel with the new storage garage, 15 feet back west of the garage.
so pretty much back in here.
Correct. More towards the front, though. The front entrance would be parallel with the other storage area right there. Correct.
So,
Okay.
so would it come off the anti-tracking pad?
Correct. It would sit
Okay.
on top of that with no excavation, just some item 4 installed, extending the item 4 that's there now.
Right. What is that dotted line that goes right through that tracking pad?
That's
This is,
I'm sorry, Donna.
no, go ahead, John.
That's regulated area. I see. Okay. So it's outside the regulated area.
It would sit almost directly on the line, correct?
Right. Why is it 150 feet, Donna? From the river?
I'm not sure.
No.
I don't know if that was something that was pre-existing. I'm not sure.
Isn't it normally 200 feet?
Usually 200 feet from a water course, yes. But I'm not sure why they're choosing 150 feet from the Houstonic River. I'm wondering if that's not the floodplain requirement.
I think that is the floodplain requirement. From what I heard from SPAC.
So will this require wetlands approval?
Yeah, we'll probably do an agent permit for this because there's not going to be any construction.
I see, right. So the structure, the prefab structure will be set on like a pier foundation?
And it'll be item 4 because it's below 600 square feet.
It's gonna be on item 4 because of the size.
Oh, so it'll just set on a flat item 4 platform.
Correct.
Is it pinned to the ground in any way?
No.
Oh,
It's a modular 2-piece garage.
is that the way they suggest that you install them?
Yes, if it was over 600 square feet, we would need a concrete pad.
I see, okay.
I've attached all the elevation drawings and sketches.
Right. All right, so you're here tonight because it's a school in a residential zone. Donna, you don't see any issues here, right?
No, not at all. No, I mean, they're here as a special permit because the school is a special permitted use.
Right, right.
And you probably are not even going to see it. You might just see the front doors of it from Shattuck Oak Road.
Right. But this is a maintenance area anyway.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
All right, does anyone have anything else to say on this, or members of the public?
So I'm having a hard time understanding the conversation, mostly because what's being told to us here doesn't really match what is shown on the documents that we received, right? So if we're just putting it on a gravel base, but the plans call for a haunch foundation.
Right, that's if it were over the 600 square feet.
Okay, but there's not enough information for me to there's conflicting information here. It seems like the application is just inadequately presented.
Okay.
So what are we talking about? Well, it's just the fact that he used an old plan. I was struggling with it also.
I can get further clarification from Bayhorse Garages as far as the plans.
Well, I think what Matt was referring to is that, you show a map that's a current as-built situation, but you're not showing where the building is.
We have another sketch. We weren't going to do a final site plan because we don't have the final site plan on the storage building yet.
Would you have the sketch you can share with us?
Yeah, I think, Donna, do you have it?
Yeah, just 1 second. I'm gonna spin it and show it. I'm gonna go counterclockwise.
Yeah, and the sketch would be adequate maybe if there were, if there were dimensions and maybe some contour lines.
It does have the contour lines. I can get them more accurate.
All right, so you'll have to show me that then. I don't mean to be difficult,
Yeah.
but it's.
No,
I
that's
see that
fine.
There's a sketch here and I'm looking at the sketch and it doesn't really show anything, so.
That was why I
possibly
showed the
I'm
other
looking
one.
at What you submitted or.
It's hard
Yeah.
to read.
Yeah,
I totally get what he's saying because I struggle with that.
Yeah.
So
so this is the proposed 24 by 24.
Yeah, but that's not 24 by 24. That's a rectangle.
Yeah, that's not the scale.
Thank you.
Okay.
I can actually have the engineer draw it up and submit it to you.
Well, I think if there's,
Yeah.
just in the interest of form, because, we do require some documentation,
Right,
that be done.
okay. Yeah, I apologize. I'm new to this, to the school. Don has been a big help to me.
I don't know. So do you want to table this? Or do you want to make it, approve it with the contingency that we get an engineered plan?
Well, I'm kind of in agreement with Matt. I mean, there's a certain standard here that it would be nice to keep up. That if it's not a terrible hardship on the school, if we table it till next meeting, I think we all understand it. We can get through it pretty quickly.
That would make me happy, or at least more comfortable, Wes.
Yep.
All right, so then we'll keep the public hearing open so that he can submit new documentation.
Right.
And then we'll just table it to the next meeting.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So the final public.
Yeah, I need a motion to table.
Oh, yes,
please.
yes. Thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
You're good. Motion.
I would make that motion to table till the next regular meeting.
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion tabled. All right, 6A3 is another public hearing. I read the notice into the record.
No, Joy Brown. Oh, there she is.
The Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via Zoom meeting on Thursday, September 8th, 2022, beginning at 7:00 p.m. to discuss and possibly act on application 84-22C and 85-22SP, Joy Brown, 463 Cedar Mountain Road, map 15, block 22, lot 67. Change of use from a guest house to an accessory dwelling unit. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the agenda, which can be found on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. Any corresponding documentation will be filed in September 8th, 2022 public meeting folder, which can be found. The Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda and will be filed on the Town of Kent's website a minimum of 48 hours prior to the official Zoom meeting. Signed, Wesley Warwick, Chairman. All right.
Hello.
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
So Joy, do you want to explain what your plan is?
Sure. We have a little guest house, and a year or so ago, we have the permit. We've built a little addition on there to the left, 12 feet by 12 feet. And now we'd like to change this from guest house to accessory dwelling unit, just put in a little kitchenette. And so we're asking you all about that. We have an engineered septic system, approved there that we haven't put in, and that's another part of it I think it's all approved, but just the kitchen part is changes it to the accessory dwelling unit. So
Is it not on a septic system now?
no, there's no toilet, no water.
I see.
And that'll start to, we'll bring that in when we move along on this.
Yep. So this is allowed in this zone. Donna, do you have any comment?
No. Kathy is aware of the change that they're proposing. And originally, when they did put the addition on, they had thought that it might be a possibility to change it. And then, so now it's coming back up at this point in time.
So Joy, you have then 3 other structures on your property, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And do any of those have plumbing or?
The house, which is,
Oh, the house, of course,
in
yeah.
front,
No,
yeah.
I meant the shed, the
Oh,
barn.
no plumbing, no septic, no,
Yep.
a shop, like a studio. Been hauling water there for 40 years.
All right. Does anyone have any comments on this?
Donna, how per the regulations is it different for the change that they're asking for now, going from an accessory structure to a guest house, or a guest house to a
It's the addition of the kitchen.
and that's both of those things are allowed by the regulation?
They're allowed by the regulations only via special permit in the rural district. So when you have a principal dwelling, you can have a guest house, no kitchen, bathroom facilities, sleeping quarters. And then if you convert that to a detached accessory dwelling unit with the addition of a kitchen. So now those people are pretty much independent. They don't need to go to the main house in order to get their food. They can actually cook it on their own.
So
But that's what the difference is, but that's special permit.
And the ADU is special permit, whereas the guest house is not?
Is administrative permit approval through me.
Fine.
So that cabin was existing, but they had to come to me for an addition after going to ZBA because they were within the setback. So, so now what they're doing is putting in a small kitchenette, and they're going to be converting that into an accessory dwelling unit.
And the existing workshop and the existing barn and the existing shed, those are accessory units, but not accessory dwelling units or guest houses, right? So they
Correct.
fall under the Florida area ratio for the entire lot, right? The maximum.
Correct.
And they're
That falls
nowhere
into the
near-
10% coverage.
And they're nowhere near that 10% coverage now.
No, because they've got, I think it's, Joy, you're on 5 acres, aren't you?
Yeah, 5 acres. Mhm.
And Joy, the front property line is to the, I'm going to call it to the bottom of the plan, to the south, right?
Yeah.
So this existing cabin is not in front of, it doesn't break that line, the parallel line from the street.
No,
So
the
it doesn't
street is a
require-
1/4 of a mile away. We have an easement on this driveway across Wyandotte property. The street's far away.
Yeah, notwithstanding how far away it is, if it's in front of the main building, the main house where there's
Oh,
other
yeah.
configurations, but because it's not in front of, then,
Yeah, it's farther back.
that's-
Yeah.
okay.
Well, she does have an overall site plan that shows that pretty well. That was in the
I
packet.
see that now. That's the blue line.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions, Wes.
Okay. Anyone else or in the public have any questions for the applicant? So hearing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Karen. Any other discussions? All in favor of closing the public hearing? Raise your hand. Okay, public hearing is closed.
Thank you all.
Okay, Joy, thank you. So we have waivers. Sorry, I didn't. Would somebody like to make a motion on the waivers? I don't seem to have that in front of me.
I would move to accept the waivers as submitted, Wes.
Okay. Will somebody second that? Thanks, Karen.
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor of accepting the waivers? Okay, waivers accepted. Your motion to approve the application. Just a change of use. There's no additions to this at all. It's just a use change.
Motion.
You're gonna do it, Karen?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve application numbers 84-22C and 85-22SP for Joy Brown at 463 Cedar Mountain Road, map 15, block 22, lot 67, for a change of use from guest house to accessory dwelling unit.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Thanks, Matt. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify, raise your hand. Motion approved. Thank you, Joy. All right, 6B1, creation of a subcommittee to discuss possible rewrite of parking regulations. That's new, is it not?
Actually, no.
Okay.
This was something that I had been asked to add to the agenda back, I think, in July. And so we had said, okay, let's wait until we get through the blah, 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 and put it on the September agenda. So I had created the September agenda in July, and that was the first thing on there.
Okay, I guess that supplanted the subdivision subcommittee, right? Yes.
Yep. So you can create the subcommittee now, or you can table it or continue it to the next meeting. It's up to you guys, but I was asked to put it on the agenda, so
Right.
that's what I did.
Well, I would suggest that we get through some of these big items like the POCD and all of that, so we can have time to focus on, because this is very important, the parking regulations.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the parking regulations fall out of our opting out of some of the provisions
Right.
in the legislation. So it's definitely, it should definitely stay on it should stay on the agenda. And then.
Right, Donna, is there a time element here?
Not at all.
Okay, all right. But yes, this is something that we need to focus on and because we haven't focused on it in a long time.
And I think
So-
I think it makes sense to set up, set up a subcommittee to review not only the parking, but the couple of other things that we've been asked to review. Certainly the accessory dwelling units we should pay attention to, which is going to fall out of the presentation of the housing plan. So maybe all of those things should get wrapped up into one subcommittee.
One giant subcommittee.
One small subcommittee with a giant task.
Right, right.
So you want one subcommittee to look at the parking and the accessory dwelling units?
Just as a thought, as a point of discussion for when we start to talk about setting up that subcommittee and setting up their charge.
Okay,
I
I'm not
would
saying
concur.
that's where we'll land, but that's I think I have a series of things that I think that we should be looking at. So maybe that's we'll talk about that when we talk about this at the next meeting.
Yeah, I concur with that, but let's
Right.
let's get through some of this big stuff.
all right. So do you want me to just say to create a subcommittee to discuss possible changes to the zoning regulations so that you can figure out which ones you want to include in that? Because the way that the agenda item reads now, it specifically says parking regulations. So do you want me to change that from parking regulations to various regulations?
Yeah,
Like, I don't know. I hate to pinpoint it for one because that was what the discussion was. But if you want to include more, then I think we need to be clear in what we're talking about.
well,
And why
that,
don't we just wait and determine that at our next meeting? What,
All right, so then I'm
maybe
just
it's
gonna,
more than one subcommittee.
right.
Subcommittees to address new legislation.
yeah. Well,
Just
we
put
did
that
the
on there.
accessory dwelling unit already for the new legislation. So, but I think they're going to be looking at other things besides that. But, all right, I'm going to just take parking regulations and add and other items.
Okay,
Okay,
great. Thank you, Donna. All right, 6B2, presentation of final housing plan.
okay,
Is-
I just need a motion to go ahead and table that. I'm sorry. So Matt, do you want to make that motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Karen wants to second it.
Karen, you're second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion and the item tabled. Is David back? He's the Kent Housing guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not back.
He's not back. Okay.
And Alice too.
Alice is back.
Okay. Alice, you want to take this on?
No, We have
I'm happy
We
to.
have Joycelyn and
Oh, okay.
Justin. Let's let them go with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure.
Hi, all. I'm Jocelyn Ayer. I am the director of the Litchfield County Center for Housing Opportunity, but I've been acting as a consultant to the Kent Housing Plan Steering Committee over the last almost year, I hate to say it, of monthly meetings to come up with this draft plan that hopefully you've all had a chance to take a look at before the meeting tonight. I think probably in the interest of time, I will not spend a lot of time presenting it, but I'm happy to take any questions or comments, I'll just maybe a couple kind of introductory remarks, if you don't mind. One is just to thank both Alice and David from the Planning and Zoning Commission for being part of the Housing Plan Steering Committee. There are also a few other members of the steering committee on tonight. Justin John Johnson, who you all know pretty well in terms of his past service to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Virginia. They were all on the Housing Plan Steering Committee as well. So as you probably saw in the plan, we've just sort of taken, the last 10 months or so to review data around housing needs in the community and your existing housing stock, look at your existing zoning regulations and what they do and don't allow in terms of new residential development, and also did some surveys that hopefully you all had a chance to take a part in terms of residents' housing needs and the perception of housing needs in the community. And then we developed the goals and strategies that you hopefully had a chance to look at in the draft plan. This draft has been out there on the town's website for at least the last 30 days. I think we posted it at the end of July for kind of a public comment period. So it is out there. Usually when I'm coming to a planning and zoning commission with a draft housing plan, I am asking the planning and zoning commission whether they believe the draft is consistent with their town plan of conservation and development. But as you all know, you're in a unique situation where you're currently also working on your POCD update. So I'm not really asking you all for that. Although, of course, if there is anything that you see that you believe is inconsistent with your current draft POCD, of course, we would want to know that. And I will just note, in terms of next steps with this, we wanted to see if you all had any questions, comments, or again, concerns about any consistency with what you're thinking about in your updated plan. And then it will go to the Kent Board of Selectmen for adoption. I believe it's on their agenda for the 15th of this month for them to consider adopting it. So I think with that, again, because it's already 9 o'clock, unless you all want me to summarize anything or answer any questions, I will leave it at that. David or Alice, did you want to say anything from your perspective serving on the steering committee?
No, just to say that I think we covered a lot of ground and we certainly did our best to represent the POCD in its original and in its draft form. So hopefully the rest of the commission likes what's put in front of them and that it will do a lot to help improve the overall housing situation in the next 5 years.
Did you see any inconsistencies with the POCD in this plan? David?
I don't think so. The plan has some broad recommendations, which I think do align with the, with what the overall POCD has with respect to housing. There's a recommendation that we take a hard look at a couple of pieces of regulation, in particular, I think with accessory dwelling units, and I guess we're all in agreement that that's probably overdue for another look. We know parking is probably overdue for another look. But otherwise, I feel like it's a good document and generally in line with what we're trying to accomplish, while still preserving the parts of the aspects of Kent that we all really appreciate.
The POCD does include the very specific goals from the housing plan, Wes. So in that respect, they are in
sync.
direct alignment.
Yeah.
you know, for me and my part, you know, I made the same comment a couple of times with regard to the recommendations within the housing plan for where the housing should go. I think that the committee, the housing plan committee, opted to not include recommendations for where enhanced housing or where housing should go. So it seems to leave that question open for the Planning and Zoning Commission to answer. Or maybe it is that the housing plan recommends that that housing just go everywhere. So you could read it maybe you could read it both ways as from what I can see. I didn't make that comment for a third time as I reviewed this the document, because I thought that the non-answer was the answer that maybe I'd received. But I guess the thing is that's the Planning and Zoning Commission will have to decide where the accessory dwelling units are best, will best serve the purposes of the zoning of the town of Kent. But I think it's I think you guys worked really hard. You all, guys and girls, worked hard on this, and I think it's a good plan. I think it's a good result, and I would, you know, thank you for your time and recommend that we accept this draft plan.
So there's no public hearing involved. This goes to the selectmen and they discuss it and approve it right there?
Yes.
Yep.
So P and Z doesn't need to make a motion to accept, or they do, or?
I think we decided that we were going to sign off on it at the last meeting. Wasn't that part of our conversation as the commission, that we did want to give it the approval?
I think it would be great if the commission was comfortable with doing that.
So then I would need just a motion to go ahead and do that.
Yes, I'd like to move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the Kent Housing Plan and recommend that it be presented to the Board of Selectmen for the final stage.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, you're on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
So do you think, just as a sidebar, that they will deliberate this or not with the selectmen? Hard to say.
Jean was on the commission at most of the meetings.
Yeah.
So certainly she's well informed of what was, the discussion.
Right.
I imagine they'll at least talk about it. I don't know if they'll have a formal deliberation or not. I guess we will see.
Right. All right, moving on. 6B3, application 8922C, Bill Hoadley for Mag Legacy LLC, map 11, block 40, lot 16, construction of a single-family home in the Horizon District. Is the applicant here to make that presentation?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Bill.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
So this lot is in front of my own house on Jennings Road. There used to be a house there a year ago. We took that house down and we're building a house nearly in its same footprint. It's slightly larger of a footprint, but it fits on the lot. And it's pretty flat from Jennings. It is rising, but that's the flat part of Jennings Road. If you've been on Jennings Road and know the road.
Is Jennings Road the road that makes it in Horizon Line?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, so there's the proposed footprint of the house. And there are a series of evergreens that were planted initially back in the 80s. Yeah, right there where that hand is. And they're pretty overgrown. Some of them aren't even, they're very close to each other. So they're kind of ratty looking. So most of those are coming down in that back side. And then there's some nice mature trees in the front, and they're staying.
So Donna, have you seen this? No, Donna.
I know the property. I've not been up there since the house has been removed.
Right.
But I remember when the existing house was there, you could hardly see it. There were so many of those overgrown pine trees.
Yeah. So it's
But-
not Jennings Road that creates the Horizon Line.
Yes, it is Jennings Road that creates the horizon line.
Okay. So where's it looks to me that it's rising up. Where's the horizon on this?
Did you do?
Well, there is no horizon there. The horizon is above. My own house is above that.
Yeah.
beyond it. And
I don't think that's right.
that pretty much is the horizon. Meaning the top of the mountain or the hill.
It keeps going for some distance before it reaches its peak, right?
That is true.
See if I can,
Yes.
So I would, it doesn't seem to me that it fits the criteria of the horizon line. It doesn't, it's not really, it's very close to the road itself, but it doesn't break the horizon line.
No.
Well, if it's in the Horizon Line district and there were no trees and no house behind it, it would break the horizon line. But I'm not concerned about it here. It's all open
Right.
fields across the road. So it's not like a wooded lot is being cleared on a virgin hilltop to build a house. It's
Right.
already essentially cleared, and there's more, cleared land that sort of dwarfs the percentage that this allowed to it.
Right. It seems to me like it's just a normal, residential house in the rural zone. Ah, good.
Oh, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess because that does cross the high horizon district, it does have to come here.
So where's the lot? Which lot is it? If you can point to it? Oh, it's right there. Okay.
How long ago did that house come down? Was
A
it
year ago.
a year ago?
Yeah.
And if I go back to, it's basically all of those evergreens that are on the back side of the house, if you use Jennings Road as the front side of the house, are coming down. And then there's a couple of evergreens that are within the footprint, which were behind the I'm going to call it the old house.
Yes, those are all pines. Yes. And then there's some on the left side there that are staying. And then there's a maple tree, and then there's some other ones in the front. There's pine trees in the front. There's a big one in the front. So I'm gonna leave all those. Those were planted by the previous owner when they built.
Is this the Habitat House, Bill?
No, that's one over. That's the gravel drive on the right there.
This one here?
This was Magda Cosma's house.
Yeah, I know Magda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you zoom out a little bit, you're not seeing this from really anywhere else except for Jennings Road, right? You can't see it from South Road.
You can't see it from Gear Mountain Road? There's no vista to Gear Mountain Road, right?
No. No, you can only see really the Habitat house and maybe one other house from this house.
Wow.
Which is the Habitat house?
It's the one where the gravel driveway that's shown on the right goes on the right side of that of Magda's house. And it sits behind, yeah, see, then it turns in and it sits right where that hand is.
Okay, I got it. I see it on the aerial view.
Yeah.
But again, if you're not seeing anything from Flat Rock, right? Or, it's not really what the house can see from what you can see from the house, but how you see the house from far away, right? So
From
Flat
distance.
Rock Road, as it goes over to South
Yeah.
Iron Mountain Road, you can't see it.
I wonder about Ore Hill, but I think this location is far enough up Jennings Road that probably isn't seeable either. Because if you get up on the top of Ore Hill, and you're looking in that direction, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even see Ore Hill from my own house, which is
Yeah,
above
that's-
this and beyond it.
House is back here.
And
Yeah, Ore Hill is way to the south.
Yeah. You can't see it through Kelly's?
I can't see.
So if you're coming Flat Rock going towards Gear Mountain, you've got Kelly's on the corner.
Oh, no, no, you can't see it from.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then how big was the how tall, let's say, was the house that was torn down? Was it 2 stories and
It was a
plus?
2-story house,
Okay.
and that was a 2-story house with well, it was kind of like a cape, so it had some dormers in it. So the second floor was within the roof line. And this house also has its second floor within the roof line. So there's not attic space above. So it's,
Like a story and a half.
yeah.
So you're talking where second floor is 11 feet off of the finished floor. The finished floor looks like it's just a couple of feet off of the existing grade or the proposed grade anyway.
Yeah,
And then I can't quite see. We don't have a dimension for the peaked roof, the highest point.
that was the mid-range of that,
I see. Yeah, I
that
see it. So you're at 26.1, so the highest point is going to be maybe 30, maybe
Right.
32.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a steep pitch roof, looks like 12 over 12.
Yes,
Yeah.
And building height to the mid is 26.
Nice house.
30.
Yes.
Um,
And how many square feet is the proposed house?
3,800.
And the footprint is maybe 24?
The first floor is most of it. So it's like 2,400 on the first floor, and then the second floor, as you can see, it gets small.
Sure.
So that's
So
like,
the master bedroom is over the garage.
the master bedroom is, no, it's over here. It's on the first floor on the left.
Oh, no, I see it. Never mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And how many square feet was the old house,
The old house.
or the footprint, I'll call it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was probably 1,200 feet, maybe. But it was and then the second story, so it was, and then there was a garage attached to it, so the garage was on the right side. So that was a 2-car garage, so that was 24 by 20. So that's 400. So it might have been 1,600 square foot footprint.
Well, I'm fairly familiar with the area, and driving it, I have never been aware of any home that is even halfway breaking the ridge line there. And certainly to Jennings Road, it's more like a normal, residential setting. It's really the long view that counts here.
Right. I mean, this house from the long view, you can't see any houses like sitting out on a ridge anywhere. From my house, I can see, I think, 1 or 2, but they're really far away. They're not even in Kent.
Right. Yeah, I think that is the case.
Well, as long as if I'm not jumping the gun here, Wes, I would move to approve application number 89-22C. Bill Holdy for Magnus Legacy LLC, map 11, block 40, lot 16, construction of single-family home in Horizon Line Conservation District.
I'll second that.
Great. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. All right. Motion carried. Thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you, guys.
Did we have to accept waivers? I realize,
No, or the waivers?
I don't know.
It's Horizon line.
I think we're talking about 6B3, right? The site plan. I don't know if they are a bunch circled.
Oh,
That was, I guess, a Donna question.
Yeah, yes, there are waivers.
oh, sorry.
Can I retroactively approve that we accept the waiving of, I think it was 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 13 from the application?
I'll second that, David.
All in favor? Okay, so retroactively, motion is carried.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. All right, 6B4, Gary, I hope you're here.
I'm here.
All right,
Right. Wes, I'm going to put you in the waiting room.
thank you.
We'll need someone to chair the meeting in Wes's absence. Who's got seniority?
Daryl.
Daryl, and then I think you're going to need to elevate Anne. Alice is here.
Well, you have a perfectly good chairman already here, but if we want to get through this, Gary, do you want to explain the situation to us?
Yeah, we've got an addition and a garage going in at 49 Spectacle Ridge Road. The property is all within the horizon line, so that's why we're here for you guys.
And this house sits much lower than the actual ridge on the north side of it?
Yes, it's on the southern side of South Spectacle Lake itself.
Yep.
And it's on the northern side of the South Spectacle Road. It has 503 feet of lake frontage, and it's very, very secluded and tucked away. I've got a series of photographs that you guys can see. And you can see how secluded it is. You can't even see it from the road or the lake. You can see parts of it.
Where am I on this agenda? 6B4.
You have a map, Donna, or do you want me to pull it up?
I'm going to share it. I can remember.
Because I'm going to have to share the photos at some point too.
Why is it not shrinking? Okay.
So the addition is going to be even further away from the existing. What the house is right now is 167 feet to the closest point of the lake.
And then you do have a couple of trees that are coming down, right, Gary?
Yep, but nothing over 24 inches. You can see the 26, I think it's 26-inch oak that sits between the addition and the lake. That's going to remain. Yep, that one.
This one's
Yep.
going to remain, and the
That's gonna
32-inch
remain.
oak is going to remain.
That stays. This, unfortunately, that's a 20, and that's the only substantial tree that's in there.
Okay.
How much cutting do you have to do for that garage? Part of that's being cut into the hillside a little bit?
Yes, it's already cut into the existing embankment's probably a 6-foot cut right above proposed garage. That line of the existing garage is shown in red. That's already cut 6 feet. So they're going to cut more into that area. And then that'll be a 3-car garage on the top. And then a carport between that and the addition. I believe that'll stay pretty much the same elevation.
So the fill from that cut goes to level out for the addition?
I believe so, yeah. The existing generator, AC pads, those all get moved. The LP tank is going to remain. A big concern usually for you guys is the lighting. It's all residential, no floodlights, and downward facing lights on the outside of the house.
Who's on the other side of the lake from him?
Cohen is sort of like at 11
This
o'clock,
way?
straight across. Nope, yeah, that's kind of the direction. And I'm not really sure that you can see any of them. I'll bring up the photos if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. And go ahead.
Okay, this is just the AutoCAD drawing of it and the houses next door. This one we did a few years ago. Actually, H&Y did that, hopefully. And then this is the other house to the other side. So you can see it's pretty secluded. They haven't cleared anything in this area. They have a lawn in this area. And this is all woods in here. And from the house, you can barely see their boathouse. So I'll bring over the pictures. This is where the addition's gonna go. On the left side, you can see the lake, parts of it. As you can see, it's really nestled in here. And this is the existing garage over on this side. This will be where the carport ends up. Oh, not the wrong way. This is a view of going down towards the lake from the addition. And this is one of the larger trees. I think that's a 12-inch oak that's gonna go. This will be where the carport is and the elevation of the garage. Again, you can see down to the lake. It's not really easily seen. The group of trees in here, they'll be coming out. I think there's, like I said, they're all 12-inch, 10-inch, like black birch, hickory. Oops, here's a better view. That's the propane tank, and this will be where the garage is gonna go. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees. There may be a couple more. That big 26-inch oak is down here. Now this is the lake. That's what you see from their dock. You can't see this from their house. You saw the view from the house. It was through a lot of trees. That's the Cohen house. And this is about, I would say, 60 feet from the shoreline. Looking across, directly across, no houses across the way. This is looking back from the dock at the house. That's what you see from the lake. And I believe that's why it's in the horizon line, is the lake, because you can't see this house from any roads. Another view across the lake. I believe this was Gleason's old house. Not sure who this is, but they definitely can't even see this house. I'm standing on the dock to acquire these photos. Again, that's Cohen's. You're looking pretty much north direction here. That's straight at Cohen's. And then this is the neighbor's house. And I'm all the way out at the deck. There's the boathouse. As you can see, it's nestled in here behind a lot of trees. Again, looking back up towards the house. So the addition will be going in this area and the garage will be right behind it from the shoreline looking up.
And that's a 2-story addition, right, Gary?
Yes, from the lake, it'll be, because it's a walkout, it'll be a 2-story from the lake. From the driveway, it's a 1-story.
Okay.
But you can't even really see the existing garage there, right? And that big tree in the front, is it gonna come down?
Yeah, this is a 32, that's staying. This is that 20 behind the house. And like I said, that other 26-inch oak is behind the house over in this direction. I'll go back to that. Whoops. So yeah, that's a view, and that's actually at the dock looking up. They have like a little cutout of the lake that they can see. And that's really the only view that they have.
Right.
That's off their deck. They have a deck right here. They didn't do any clearing in here. They've got like 2 pathways. One comes down to the dock, the other goes down to the boathouse. So it's not like the neighbors that, they've cut away. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Like these people have like a beach and they've got lawn all the way down, and their house sits a little closer, obviously, to the shoreline.
Does anybody have any more questions for Gary?
I don't.
No? Looks good.
These are Wes's plans. That'll be the addition off the main house. That's that octagon shape. I guess they call it TV area. So that's the second story. And this is the garage, 3-story, or sorry, three-car garage. And the elevation view, that's looking to the west. This is across the front. And this would be from the lake looking up. Let's see. You can see the addition's much lower than the existing houses up here. This is only like 1.5 stories, not even.
Don, is there an application in the folder that I just don't see?
Let me check the folder and see.
Have the staff report, the site plan, and the topo. I don't see an actual application to vote on though.
Right now.
Yeah, you want us to scan it in right now?
I just want to make sure we have something to actually vote on.
They will be going to wetlands. Because the back addition is within 200 feet of the lake, so.
So Gary, what's their
I can't.
what is their hoped for timeline here? They're going to go to inland wetlands at their next meeting, which will be in October, right?
I believe so. This is the first step. Wes wanted me to represent conflict of interest.
So it would be okay with you if we had Donna and Ty scan in the other information, we had another chance to take a look at it at our next meeting in early October, and then made a decision then? Would that sort of fall within the timeline of the owners?
I'm pretty sure that they're anxious to start, but I'd have to ask Wes that.
Yeah, I don't think that I think if you go ahead and approve it, Wes's plan is to start those the construction of those new buildings that are not within the 200 feet. So really, it's just the back deck and part of the extension that's coming off of the house. But the detached garage and the carport and the garage are not within the regulated area. So we'll be looking just at the deck in the back and the small addition off of that.
So is that something that makes me, so the proposed deck and the small addition where I guess I don't see where the wetlands encroachment is.
If you look, there's one of the maps has 164 to the house.
167.
167.
68. Okay.
So anything that's just past that.
Yeah. So my question would be, if they don't get approval from inland wetlands, is there something they could lop off to mitigate the requirement to go to wetlands?
Yeah, the one that Gary put in this one here. I don't see any issue with wetlands at all.
But if the deck went.
Right. So we really, I mean, how deep, do you, any idea how deep that deck is?
The addition is 190 from the addition's front, the closest corner is 190 to the lake. And the garage is 239 feet from the lake. So they could
Right.
definitely start on the garage.
Right.
You'll have to wait for the proposed addition, but they can start the proposed garage and the carport without issue.
Right,
If they didn't get approved, they wouldn't get their addition or their deck.
right. So if they don't get approved, they don't get the addition or the deck. And I don't
Yeah.
see an issue, you know,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't see it.
we're just gonna need to make sure that we have, you know, the proper siltation shown and that kind of stuff. I mean, ultimately, it's up to you guys. Inland Wetland will get it on the 19th. They won't make their decision until October 24th. Because it's a 2-meeting month. So rather than hold them up now, because now they would have to come back to you guys in November. So they're not going to start this project until the spring of next year. They can at least start the garage, then we can get the wetland process going.
And wetlands aside, does anyone have concerns judging it from a Horizon Line Conservation District?
No.
Only, only sort of piggybacking on what David had said, we haven't had a chance to look at the elevations to see how tall that building is compared to the existing garage and compared to the existing house and how that might affect the view.
And the application itself isn't in there, which I know we've been trying to make sure that we get complete packages.
Yeah, the application is just the Horizon Line District Site Plan application.
There's no waiver, so.
It's just, it's in the meeting folder, just under doc. It's probably the last one.
Under doc.
There's your elevations. So this will be the family room, which is about
I don't have that. He has.
the floor level of the second story of the existing house.
I don't know if it is or not. It
As
could
far as
be.
the garage height, it'll probably be about 8 to 10 feet higher than the existing garage. The existing garage isn't shown on this elevation view because they're tearing it down. But it's very similar to what the carport elevation is.
Right.
So if you see this new ridge, that's going to be the addition. And all this building in the background is the existing house, and that's the existing ridge of the existing house.
And this
Substantially higher.
This is looking from the lake.
Nope, this is looking towards Warren.
Okay.
Do you have an elevation from the
From the lake to the existing house first floor is 60 feet in elevation.
No, I wonder if there's an elevation view, it's a plan elevation. And that would be east. Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Yeah.
That's the southern.
That's just the opposite side of what we're looking for.
Yep, this is the driveway side if you were looking at it.
Right. Do you have something from the north?
Just the garage.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it adds a lot of actual additional building from that view because that garage is already there and offset. And there's a lot of green there, so it doesn't seem like it's really going to impact the lake view at all.
Right. The garage technically would be hidden behind the addition.
Yes.
Because this is a carport and the garage would be in front of it. I think Wes just left the new garage off of this view so that you could see the carport and the addition coming off the house.
And the application has 100 cubic yards of fill coming in. That's to level out where that's being built.
Yeah, and probably it looks pretty bony there, so they might not be able to use some of the soil they pull out of there. I mean, by bony, kind of boulders and stuff. Here's the lake side looking at the house. You can see the current ridge here.
And the garage is behind there on the back.
Yeah,
side.
it's hidden. It's because they perfectly line up looking from the lake up to the addition. The garage would be right behind it. And the same from the road, looking back at the garage, the addition's hidden behind the garage.
Now, this view from the lake, though, is actually looking across horizontally. The lake is lower, so your perspective.
Much lower.
Correct.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able
60
to see
feet
it.
below this, 60 feet below this level right here.
I mean, the applications are, I'm okay now at this point. Everything seems to be covered and it definitely doesn't seem like it's going to be particularly visible or really any change at all from what's there now.
The application is in the public meeting folder? Is that,
She just added it. It's at the bottom.
oh, the doc 001
Yes, should probably rename that for
posterity?
posterity. Yes, in the unlikely event somebody wants to look at it in a decade.
You're gonna want to look at it in a decade. Memories. When you're in the home.
That's what I'm-
Remember your last episode.
Easy, Donna.
Can you put that doc on the screen? The-
Oh, it isn't on the screen?
Home with an album.
Um,
Yeah, Alice, it's the application. So it's we talk about it's the, you know, who the name of the property owner is and the address and the applicant's telephone. Yeah, we can, I'm sure somebody could put it up if you wanted to see it. I was, you know, much more interested in seeing the architectural drawings, which to me are a big part of a
Right.
Horizon Line application. And I'd like to, you know, sort of hold the line on having a complete application and for us to review. So we're not, and mostly why I say that is because, you know, we gave the guy from I gave the guy from the Kent School somewhat of a hard time because I couldn't understand his application, and I don't want to apply our ire inconsistently. But based on the information that's been available to us, I somewhat agree with David that we've got the information that we need in order to make a determination.
Could we just get those elevations entered into the record then? The ones that were shown? And with that, then I'm happy to move that we accept the application.
I mean, essentially what's been presented is part of the application, but we'd like to have that neatly tucked.
You guys want this in the application?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Gary,
I'll
if you could just,
make sure that happens.
just email them to me.
Yep.
If you could, that'd be great.
No problem. Do it
Thank
right
you
now.
very much.
I guess I'll formalize that as a motion and that we approve the Horizon Line application under agenda item 6B4 with those two documents added.
There a second?
I'll second that. Oh, go ahead. The Karen gets it.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Raise your hand. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you guys. Have a good night. And Donna, I emailed that to you right now.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Take care, Gary.
All right,
All right,
let me-
Daryl,
Good night.
that's one step down the slippery slope. Do you understand?
No, I put the crampons on, I had the ice picks up there, I'm all locked in perfect, not sliding.
And the whole glacier slides down the mountain, Daryl.
You know, it's interesting that in the vote, in moving to accept, we could have quoted and be in the minutes, application number 9022C. It's what it says in the agenda. And all we'd say, we accept the application. It does have a number.
It does. David somewhat shortened his approval
Right.
by pointing to the agenda item without
Right.
having to read the whole thing.
Well, that just makes it even. Oh, maybe, I don't know. We didn't cross all the Ts.
Get Wes back in here.
Look, there's the empty chair.
The empty chair.
Oh, no.
Oh, here he comes. All right. Still muted, Wes.
What do we have for 6B5? What was that?
So that's the new, that's appointment of
The
the
appointments,
CEO.
right, okay, and then the other one is,
Out of the waiting room.
okay. So Wes is back. Thanks, Daryl. And so now we're at 6B5.
6B, oh, right. That was the assistant CEOs. I'm sorry.
65 was hiring Ty or appointing Ty.
Okay, and 6B6 is the, okay.
So I would move to I would move to appoint Ty Kern to the position of zoning enforcement officer effective October 7, 2022.
I will second that.
Okay.
And you understand the rationale for doing that, right?
I mean,
It's
so
just-
we have his CEO.
Because so that you have a CEO. It's just that it's a little bit confusing because we did hire her as the land use administrator, but it's the commission that appoints her to the CEO after a training period. So, you know, so
And if we
so
didn't do it, it'd be really embarrassing all around, I suspect.
it would be pretty much. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that October 7th will be my last day, and then Ty will then have the position as CEO as well, land use administrator.
So
Yeah,
is that,
the full thing.
so is that understood by all parties?
Yes.
Yes, sir. What do you mean by all parties here or all parties not here?
No, Wes and I know what he means.
All parties in town.
Yeah. No, probably not, but
Okay.
what are you gonna do? Okay, so the 6B6 is, I'll let Ty explain that.
I don't know if you had a chance to read the tweaked job description for what was formerly the land use clerk. Currently, so per the town policy, every two years, the job descriptions are supposed to be reviewed. This job description hasn't been reviewed since 2015. So we took the liberty of reviewing the job description, comparing it to the rest of the town and how it operates. And most departments have like an assistant. So you have an administrator and an assistant. This department has a clerk. So to be in line with like the assistant town clerk and the assistant assessor and the assistant tax collector, we thought that it would be beneficial, meaning me and Joe, because that position falls under the building official as well, worked on this and thought that it would be more beneficial to be in line with that. So we tweaked the description to kind of match that. One of the criteria is that most of the, it's a big job. It's a 15-hour job. And there's a lot of responsibility. But in addition to that, we kind of added in the requirement of certification, and the rationale behind that is the new legislation actually requiring all land use, like all ZEOs to be certified as of 2023. So it would be nice to have a backup actually capable of being certified and being in compliance with state requirements. With that said, it seems that we may possibly even have a candidate willing to do that position. It's very hard to find certified ZEOs. I don't know, you could go to the Casio website and the list is very small. So if you can find one, it's not a bad idea to grab them. So I don't know if you've taken a look, if you have any questions, any comments.
So
the job description really has not changed much, just the title, basically.
The title and the requirement of the certification per the legislation.
But that's big, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and it's good to have.
So what happens? So I know that that we've got a candidate in mind to take over this position. But if we didn't have a candidate in mind, and because of the dearth of Casio certified personnel people, what happens when we don't, if we don't have,
Right.
if we
So
can't
as
find that, do we have to go back to the previous job description as a clerk?
So what, as I understand it, the clerk's job had been posted, and it was almost impossible to find somebody to fill that position either. So I know firsthand that there's not enough land use personnel throughout the state. I mean, you can look anywhere and people are looking for people who are qualified in land use in general. All the offices are short. So I think either way, it's a tight position. I think that Donna did try to hire somebody under the previous title and was unsuccessful as well. So it's just the position that the state is in right now. Municipal employees, actually, not even just land use, municipal employees are very short.
Would you want to change it from must be to ideally be, Matt? Is that what you're thinking? Just
I mean, I'm open. Obviously, it's under your discretion. So, I mean, we're open to suggestions if you don't feel comfortable with that. I think it's a great idea to have that certification, or at least have somebody willing to be certified. So you have somebody here available should something happen. You know, you can have somebody step in and take over to be able to address things, you know, if need be.
So what we're saying here is that a clerk would not have to be certified.
Yeah, but a clerk could not, you know, sign off on applications. A clerk could not go out and inspect sites. A clerk could not go, you know, there's so many things. A clerk is limited to clerical work, and that's it. Filing, you know, data
Yes, if
input,
we-
and that's it.
if we can't find a certified candidate in the future, I guess we could always edit the job description.
Yeah, or make it somebody who has to be certified within so much time, or that kind of stuff, and a requirement of the job, you know. I think it's a positive thing for the town if you can get that to happen.
I think we're all in agreement with that. We just want to make sure that if, you know, the person leaves and we have to hire somebody else, we don't make it even more impossible to find a replacement. But
I understand.
we can always amend it later if necessary.
I
Otherwise,
understand.
looks lovely.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think David, that's a good point. That if it comes to it, then we could change the language to say that as Ty suggests, that's, you know, have to be certified within a certain period of time. But
Yeah.
ideally, we've got a backup, somebody who's an assistant land use administrator who can step in as necessary,
Right.
who's truly a second,
And this is in keeping with the other departments. It's not out of line because that is exactly how the other departments are run as well, you know. So there's the assistant tax collector and there's the assistant assessor and there's an assistant town clerk. So, you know, and those positions also go to classes and, you know, try to be certified as best as they can, you know, so it's,
So they have their
it's
own
not
set-
out, it's not out of line.
Right. So they have their own set of certifications.
Yes, yes.
All right, so let's raise the bar.
All right. I guess I would move that we raise the bar
Good.
and approve the job description.
I would second that motion, David.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Okay. So we're covered for a while.
Let's hope. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. So staff report, Donna?
Well, Ty started on Tuesday and we have been very busy and we've been here until 6 o'clock, at least every night. Just trying to go over things today. We were out for at least an hour and a half, just driving around, doing some site visits, looking at some of the new houses that are being built, some of the proposed new properties are going to be developed. We actually had gone down and looked at the Kent School site where they're going to be putting that little 24x24 garage. We went over to Straight Road to look at that big house and get that all squared away, combining kind of zoning with wetlands. So we still have to hit Macedonia in the top of Skiff Mountain and then go on up Kent Road going north. So we'll do that probably one day next week. Everything has been transitioning really well. So, you know, I mean, it's really just trying to impart some of the history because she knows the processes. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's just fine tuning everything. And she'll be on her own for the week of the 19th. I'll be away and then back again in the office on the 26th. And then my last day will be the 7th. And then on the 10th, we go to Mexico until the 20th. And then I'll be back.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'll be back in this office. That's what the hope is. But I don't have any control over that. So we'll see what happens.
So we have a little work to do.
You have a little work to do.
All right.
So, you know, I mean, and we've been bringing Joe in on this process. He's aware of everything that, you know, that we've been doing. I think he's very appreciative of the fact that we've been bringing him in on this and he's, you know, in 100% agreement. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll leave it to the powers that be. And that's all I got.
Okay, Matt, we don't need to discuss POCD anymore, do we? Good, all right.
And we're going to keep that subcommittee in existence until after the final adoption.
Of course.
Right? But do you want to, the Affordable Housing Plan Subcommittee, can that be disbanded at this point in time? David and Alice, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess maybe we should wait until it's finalized by the Board of Selectmen, just in the
Okay,
hopefully unlikely event that it is rejected. But I would say we can survive another month. We won't have any more meetings though.
okay, so we'll leave that on the agenda until next month.
Yeah,
Great.
and the only report was we had the final draft. There was one public comment that was fairly minor that we felt was addressed. But otherwise the plan had no changes. So it was a very, very quick final meeting.
Okay,
Perfect.
cool. Okay,
Administrative permits. So there was a couple.
Yeah, well, that was because last month I forgot to include the ones from July to August, so. Yeah, it's been busy
Yeah.
and it continues to be busy. We just got a plan for a house today that we don't even know what the square footage is. It's so big. It's definitely bigger than the 12,000 square foot one that just got finished. So, yeah, we have another one of those coming down the pipe, so.
So I saw the roll of plans that I was jealous.
Yeah, that was it. You saw that plan, huh?
I did.
Okay.
All right, do we need to go into executive session?
Yeah, I think we do. So, let me get myself situated as far as pausing the recording and that kind of stuff. So I just need a motion to go into executive session.
I will move, we enter executive session.
Thanks, David. Okay, I'm gonna stop that one. And I'm gonna pause. Okay, recording is paused. And I'm going to put Andrea into the waiting room.
I'm showing that you are still recording.
Really?
And then David has made his
Okay,
motion.
David has the line down, I think.
He does,
I
but
need
Adam
that.
is not here, so I need somebody else to second.
Somebody else a second. I will move that we follow the advice of our attorneys with respect to the 3 items of litigation in front of the commission.
I'll second that.
There we go.
Thanks, Karen.
All right, you guys are the best.
Everybody
Oh,
All in-
yes, all in favor, yep.
Unanimous.
Okay,
Okay,
And votes twice.
so that's all I got.
Okay.
So we just, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about,
now let's go home.
Around for a little bit.
I will move, we adjourn
okay?
10:22 PM.
All right, thank you
We
all.
can catch the end of the football game.
There you go. Matt, are you seconding that?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye.